for the creepy freak that she is. First of all, she clearly has absolutely no respect for living things that are not traditionally human. The Melusines are made to look like children. Having an adult character who is high-key obsessed with them and can't treat them as the people they are was a fucked up move on Hoyo's part. Harassing them and treating them as though they are pets. It's disgusting. It reads as extremely fetishistic to me, which is a problem when the people that she's fantasizing about look like children. Literally just another excuse to make a woman with large breasts walk around with a single piece of cloth covering her ass. How willfully obtuse people will be about Columbina, pretending not to see the fan service that is sitting right in front of them. Nod Cry teaser was a lifesaver for me. Holy shit, a beautiful 5-star man with a mysterious backstory who's actually part of the meta. And oh my god, Lowen too. That face card is diabolical. It's the 4-star character Aoife, and that's mostly because he's a gorgeous cowboy.
Hey, Mr. White. He's the devil.
Hi. You probably don't know me because this is actually the first time I made a proper video with my own voice, so please be gentle with me. And no, this isn't going to be another one of those why Genshin is dead, why I quit, or like anything, any sort of that. You know the type. And instead, I want to talk about those kinds of videos, specifically one by candybbug. For a bit of context, I've been playing Genshin Impact since day one, around September 28th of 2020. Even before that, I already played Honkai Impact 3rd, so I've been following Hoyoverse games for quite a while now. If you look through my channel, you'll probably find old Genshin uploads, so I guess there's proof of that. But anyway, I did stop playing around the end of Fontaine for personal reasons, and only came back when Skirk was released. That meant I got to experience the entirety of Natlan almost at once, which gave me a somewhat different perspective compared to people who played it version by version. So as of recording this, we're in version 6.7, and I'm still actively playing. Okay, before we continue, there are a couple of things I'd like to mention. First, I'm a neurodivergent trans woman, so misogyny and the way female characters are discussed will naturally come up throughout the video because they're relevant to the topic. And if that's something you aren't interested in hearing, or if you're already dismissing my opinion because who I am, then this video is probably isn't for you, and that's fine. Second is that this is my first long-form essay with a voiceover, so even though I'm using a script, I might occasionally stumble over my words, or lose my train of thought, or go off script a little. Hopefully you can bear with me. So finally, I don't want this video to come across as, please be nice to the billion-dollar company, please, not my billion-dollar company. Hoyoverse absolutely deserves criticism, and I'll point out places where I think they've generally fallen short in some cases or another. What I don't think is helpful is criticism built on oversimplifications, missing context, or claims that don't really hold up once you actually look at the game itself. So let's talk about candybbug's video. Now this is candybbug's expression towards Mawika's character.
How does she represent war? Well, she's fighting a war against the Abyss, like everybody else into that. Yeah, maybe they have it worse than other nations, but still, what happens when the war ends? Which it does at the end of the Archon quest. It's not like Mawika is some battle-crazed maniac. At most, she's just kind of thoughtless and reckless in her actions.
Okay. Feels like an oversimplification of her character. If you follow the Archon quest and other quests involving Mawika, there's considerably more to her than that. Much of her character revolves around sacrifice and loss. She chose to leave behind the life she once had, including her sister and the people she cared about, to fulfill a duty that spans generations in the fight against the Abyss. Throughout Natlan's story, we repeatedly see this emotional wave of those choices she made. And Mawika was really choosing a risky fight, but also Mawika trusted her people to fight while she was away and finally just to stop the war once and for all. Now candybbug has expressed that, wow, it was crazy and etc. She was crazy to do that. Well, considering Mawika, considering that she has only the power and the will to do so, I'd say people usually would choose the craziest route. Just saying. Anyway, going back about loss and sacrifice, I've consumed anti-war media. Regardless of the setting, it often explores how prolonged conflict changes people. Characters who have constantly bear the responsibility of protecting others may appear reckless, decisive, or emotionally distant. Now, I do in some capacity agree that there could have been some gaps to be filled. There's also nothing wrong about not liking the characterization or just character at all. But it's just never right to just water them down into this fighting character while also expressing what's wrong with them. Now, this is also what Candybug spoke while talking about Nat Lenny's characters.
Like the characters here can make up for this nation's incredibly boring and stupid story. For me, all of them were so nothing. It boggles my mind that so many of y'all are shipping these MFs together.
Okay, I don't really get why this was brought up. What does shipping have to do with the point they're making? People will ship characters regardless of whether they're written well or not. It just feels like the point is somewhere losing already from the start, or losing the plot, I guess. Now, Candybug talked about Nutcry as well. Personally, after months of catching up exploring, I managed to experience Nutcry firsthand. I also waited for Columbina and Sandrone for quite a while, and now I do understand that many were disappointed in the two, especially Columbina, on how she was characterized. However, we forget that many of the things that people anticipated are boosted from how the community media portrayed the character, even though there were no official direct description of her entire personality. One example is from a Hoyo Fair video that portrayed Columbina into this one scary character. A lot of fans thought this was official in one way or another, but they also seem to forget that these are made by fans and creators, not employees of Hoyoverse. And don't get me started, it doesn't mean that Hoyoverse approved of the animation means it is canonical. I've seen so many people use this as a point. It's not. Now, I do agree in some degree that the character's voice lines about her could have been executed in a different manner. However, Hoyoverse is quite known for making characters that give this different first impression. But they are that kind of person as soon you meet them or know more about them. For example, let's go back to Fontaine. Farina. Farina, by many players, including me, imagined her as one of those higher class with ego, but turns out internally she's struggling and trying to uphold the responsibility given to her by Focalors. That is simplified. It's way more depth than that. And another example is Arlecchino. Child, who has a line about Arlecchino, no surprises there.
I've got nothing against people who have their own agendas. I myself joined the Fatui to get more experience in combat. But I don't like her at all. If she stood to benefit from betraying others, she'd turn against the Tsaritsa in a heartbeat. There isn't a sane bone in her body.
Now, this is somewhat true. Arlecchino has stated something similar about around late Nodcry Archon Quest. However, that does not mean she will betray everyone. The same with Scaramouche or Wanderer's line about Arlecchino.
A wolf in sheep's clothing. To exert a higher level of control over people, she puts on a graceful and cordial front. Most of those who have seen her true crazy self have gone poof.
Now, basing it entirely from Arlecchino, Child, Wanderer isn't entirely painting Columbina's picture. Also considering Wanderer evidently just does not like his colleagues in his entire time being in the Fatui, and is vocal about his views on each Harbinger. Now, this isn't just in Genshin, it's almost throughout many games they've made, introducing them with little to no perspective and depth about them firsthand, then letting the player explore them in like many Hoyo games. Alright, let's go back to Columbina, specifically Winter Lazo. Now, I sort of understand how some players find her singing gently creepy, and she does have seraphim and angel symbolism, while also, in the biblical sense, seraphims do look creepy to ordinary humans, not because they're outright violent or crazy. It's because they find them terrifying because of their raw power. We call this numinous. I'm probably butchering that word, but numinous is the concept of the overwhelming, terrifying majesty of the divine. Does that sound familiar? Columbina lore-wise is strong even before she held the Trilunar Authority, even before she left the Fatui, because she is a divine being. Her gentleness comes from divine indifference. In theology, a divine being isn't angry, loud, malicious. They are completely detached from mortal concerns. Her calm demeanor is the absolute peak of power. She has nothing to prove anyone. This is evident based on her history of being treated as a goddess in her birthplace, which made her go to the Fatui to be with harbingers that she thought it would be similar to her level. However, the Fatuis was almost the same, using her divine power for their own objective. Now, the longest discussion candybbug talked about is character design and just fan service entirely. Now, in some designs, yes, some of them are questionable, like a scoff here. And nothing is wrong from you liking it, and nothing is wrong about you not liking it. And of course, there are scenes and scenes of fan service given to not just Columbina, but to many characters as well. We seem to forget that we're almost in a gacha game. And gacha games are quite known for numerous fan service, so the company gets money from the time their banner comes out. That is an undeniable fact. Yes, I know about candybbug said that they do know about the fan service, and that we're in a gacha game. But let's not forget about the other games how it first made. I mean, come on. What a lot of criticism videos lack is that they never really address the full issue. They usually just nitpick and then completely lose the plot, like candybbug. Like, I do get it that they made some of the characters more fan servicey as they finally got released. I understand and know that frustration, but we really can't change things entirely and, go and complain because this is a company we're talking about who mostly care about profit. Now, candybbug briefly mentioned about Loma's design. Yes, I do agree on that part of them about Loma. Characters are still sold as product though, and they can absolutely use mythological accuracy as a disguise for sexualized design. Both things can be true simultaneously. In some cases, there are going to be gacha games that are like the design is faithful to the source and the game monetizes that faithfulness for profit, like Reverse 1999. And in some cases, well, they aren't accurate to the culture in one way or another, and more about fan service, like Raiden with her being a shogun, like Yae Miko, her being a shrine maiden, like Baiju, him being a physician based in historical China, like Sino, his clothes aren't for the climate, like Goro, the battlefield would just end him so quickly with little to no protection he's wearing. Like, there are so many characters that Genshin does not really follow to the heart about who they are or what their background is. This has become consistent even before Natlan. Anyway, as the video progresses, they just lose that one point that made sense and you'll just see.
What the fuck were they thinking with this character? I feel like a crazy person because I feel like I'm the only one who doesn't think she's adorable and in fact recognizes her for the creepy freak that she is. First of all, she clearly has absolutely no respect for living things that are not traditionally human. She keeps asking to touch and pet the Melusines as if they are not whole people. It's especially creepy because the Melusines are made to look like children. Having an adult character who is high-key obsessed with them and can't treat them as the people they are was a fucked up move on Hoyo's part. It reads as extremely fetishistic to me, which is a problem when the people that she's fantasizing about look like children.
Yeah, oh god. Wow. I'm out of words. I'm quite deeply offended myself. So, I guess let me say this too, candybbug. What the hell were you thinking when you were making this video? The entire linear part was just full internalized misogyny and ableism. Like, how could you talk about misogyny when you're talking about a woman character like that? It is just so sad that as a neurodivergent person myself, I get really cuteness aggression even to people who are close to me, and just animals too, and just even things that you cannot physically hold. Linnea is seen with autism traits by many neurodivergent people, including myself. But you damn calling her a freak, a weirdo, perverted, just for the urge of wanting to pet and know more about the things she finds? Like, she archives things, she catalogs things. Obviously has fixations like many neurodivergent people. And it does hurt to see someone who talks about misogynism then think autism and neurodivergent behavior a disgusting behavior. Doesn't sit right with me. You have to be like, ugh. Like, you have to be also really messed up in one way or another, thinking that she's perverted to children. Like, I think that's a bit of a stretch, isn't it? Like, I've never known someone could form a thought about that to Linnea.
And that Nod Cry teaser was a lifesaver for me. Holy shit, a beautiful 5-star man with a mysterious backstory who's actually part of the meta. And oh my god, Lowen too. That face card is diabolical. It's been
The fact that the way they talk to women characters and the loudest part of their voice on men is about how they like them. I mean, especially Lohan, who is seen more with the creepy vibe, quote unquote. But they never addressed that, which speaks to so many levels that this is a form of internalized misogynism. Now we're reaching the end of the video. I made this video mostly because lately there are channels and creators who pop out of nowhere just to stir drama. I really hope this doesn't sound like I'm stirring one myself. One of my messages is about how people give in to sunk cost fallacy. They make criticisms without full depth, or just full on trash talk the game and spread misinformation. But in the end, they're still playing it, even though it's been genuinely unenjoyable for them. You don't have to like Genshin at all. This is a company that weaponizes sunk cost fallacy and fear of missing out to keep you playing so they can keep profiting. Do not give in to that. I know some friends that have completely left the game, and that is nothing wrong doing so. If the game has truly become unenjoyable for you, there's nothing wrong with leaving it. And there's nothing wrong with not liking some bits of it, as long as you're not being biased or spreading incorrect information. Personally, I find the game has some flaws, both gameplay-wise and how they execute things. Like, for example, resin still feels limited, and there are no fallbacks or overflow system that the game provides when your resin becomes full, which can strengthen the FOMO feeling. Another is that major events and some story-driven events are one-time, which you cannot experience if you are too late, which again enforces that FOMO feel. Entirely, I personally noticed that Genshin from the start is possibly designed in a way that encapsulates players to feel resentment as they stay longer because of that FOMO and sunk cost emotions, as a lot of the things in the game are time limited or need so much time investment. Despite all of that, I still enjoy Genshin, not because I feel forced to log in, I actually forget a day or two sometimes, or because I already invested too much to quit, but because there are parts that I genuinely like. The world building, the atmosphere, the music, the combat, and some of the stories it tells. But enjoying a game doesn't mean pretending its systems are beyond criticism. I think it's possible to appreciate what Genshin does well, while also recognizing where Genshin fell short. It's like reading a book. You can enjoy the game while still pointing out that some chapters drag on, or could have been written better, or just outright removed. Enjoying something doesn't mean you have to think every part of it is perfect. Lastly, whether you end up loving Genshin, quitting it, or somewhere in between, I think the most important part is concluding that in an honest manner. Not because someone told you it's the greatest game ever, and not because someone convinced you it's the worst of all. Play it, criticize it, enjoy it, or move on. But let those be your own conclusion. And that's all for this video. If you have comments, positive or negative, feel free to drop them below. Again, this is my first time creating a very serious video, so thank you for watching.